So today is Christmas. Merry freaking Christmas, everybody. I'm extremely excited. All of the Christmas music is about to go away for the next 10 months. It's my favorite time of year. It's been a long couple months. Everywhere you go, it's some pop country singer mangling a Christmas classic, and it's just about more than a person should have to take. The other exciting thing about today is I'm finally ready to load some live rounds. These are going to start with a brand new 3-inch Fiocchi hull. They're already primed and they use the Fiocchi 616 primer. The powder is going to be Alliant Blue Dot. The wads are going to be these TPS wads from Ballistic Products. Got one that's for 2 3/4 inch holes and one that is for 3-inch holes. These are basically full-size shot cups made out of pretty tough plastic to help protect the bore from tungsten loads. And the base is just kind of, I guess, a standard obturating cup. So I want to try both wads. So what I've done is take 3 holes and just cut 1/4 inch off of them. So these 3 will be loaded with the short cup and all of the full length holes will be loaded with the longer one. I want these to be pretty stout, so we're going to be shooting 1.5 ounces of number 8 Magnum lead shot. For the powder charge weight, I want to use 36.0 grains of this Blue Dot. This is not any official recipe. This is me making it up. The first place I looked to get an idea about what charge weight to shoot was the Alliant website. They've got 1.5 ounce load data for both 2 3/4 and 3-inch Fiocchi hulls. And it's even with the Fiocchi 616 primer. They've got data with other primers as well. Now for the 2 3/4 inch data, they use the RP12 wad, and their 3-inch data uses a couple of other wads, the SP12 and the 12S4. So the wads is the difference. Same hull, same primer, same payload weight. So that's my most convincing source. I looked at about 100 other sources, including all of the manuals I've got, including weird places like the bismuth section of the Lyman manual has actually got loads made with these, and the weight's the same, 1.5 ounces, but in that case it's bismuth. And in other places it's a different hull. So really I looked at enough examples with this powder and other components with this payload weight, and you just got to pick a number. We'll see how that works out. So if everything works out, I would like to load 4 different loads. We already talked about the 2 3/4 inch hull. We're going to do that with a roll crimp. I want to do a 3-inch hull with a roll crimp. I want to do a 3-inch hull with a 6-point fold crimp, and I want to do a 3-inch hull with an 8-point fold crimp. So like I already showed, I've got 3 holes ready for the 2 3/4. So we'll load the same number of the other types as well. So for a total of 12 shots. That should be enough to shoot over the chronograph and get an idea of what's going on. So I'm going to be measuring out all of my shot and all of my powder charges. So I've got a couple of 1.5 ounce shot loads weighed out and ready to go. And I showed some of these little 3D printed discs I had made that would go down inside of a hole. Well, I stacked up a couple of those in the bottom of a couple of holes so the wad comes right up to the mouth of the hole, and got them lined up pretty close to where the end of the wad is right at the mouth of the hole. So if I dump the shot in, this is how much space gets taken up. This is number 8. So if we were shooting the number 5 lead I've got, it would take up a little bit more space. If we were shooting 1.5 ounces of tungsten, it would be way down here. So what we need to do is fill up the rest of this space with something like these 1/8 cork wads, or these 1/4 inch felt wads, or these harder cardboard, these harder wads. So if we start with this one and start with 1/4 inch felt, that's going to be pretty close. Now this felt will go at the bottom of the shot column, so it'll go in first, just trying to gauge the distance. So on top of this would go an overshot card, and we would crimp onto that. I'll try and really push this down a good bit. No, there's not really room in there for anything else. I think I'm going to have to be careful with these overshot cards, because so that 1/4 inch felt makes for about the right size, but if you put an overshot card on top of it, it's not going to go down into the wad at all. So I could do with maybe a little bit more compression there. I did see some recipes that used a 16 gauge overshot card. These are 12s, so this is a full size one. If I had a smaller one that would actually go down into the wad a little bit and provide a little bit more compression, I think that would be ideal. I've seen that in some recipes. I need to order some. I mean, for the time being, I could trim down some of these a little bit, but we'll keep that in mind. We should be able to work around it. So the longer shot cup. It's a 1/4 inch longer, so should be able to put that same felt in there and then have about 1/4 of an inch left. So let's go ahead and drop a second one on top of it. Now this might be the opposite problem. It's a little bit too tall. I don't think I could compress it all the way to the top of the wad without quite a lot of force. Yeah, I bet that's good. We'll see how that works out. Because I think, so the next step I want to take is dump our shot back out. Yeah, I feel like we need to see, where our powder level is going to be, which will set where the wad is going to land. And actually, another thing, let me cut one of these real quick. I wanted to look at the bottom of the cup. It is rounded, so I'm curious how well these will conform down there. So that should definitely make them stand at least a little bit taller than they were when, whenever we were measuring at the top of the column. See how the cork ones do. That's not all that pretty, but I think it's down in there. We'll keep that in mind. Okay, 36.0 grains. I'm going to go ahead and measure out 2, one for a short haul and one for a long haul. And here are the wads seated down onto the powder. That depth seems pretty good. I'm going to see if I can measure. So the long one, we've got about 375 thousandths to the top of the hole, and with the short one, I've got about 330. I'm going to measure these a couple times. So this is the manual from the Lee Lodahl press, and they say there should be a 1/2 inch of shell above the shot on a 12 gauge. This is in the crimping section. This is talking about how to get a good crimp. We don't have that much. Now with a roll crimp, this is not a problem. What we've already talked about, I could drop the shot, put the felt wad on top, put the overshot card, and roll crimp ready to go. Let's go ahead and put this one together. So this is the short one. If you remember, it needed 1 felt. Make sure it's seated well. There's our shot. Settle it down just a little. Our pellets are right at the top of the shot cup. So we put an overshot card right there. And that's ready for a roll crimp, and it's done. And I'm pretty sure we've got plenty to, complete the roll crimp. I definitely got the felt a little bit crooked. I'm going to be more careful with that next time. Let's go ahead and crimp this. I'm going to take a junk hole and use this to warm up my tool. Didn't tighten the vise enough. It's not the prettiest crimp I've done, but I think it's good. Looks to be complete all the way around. Didn't get much puckering too bad. The clear hull is messing with my head. Like looking through there, that line around there, I thought it was that melted line that I had run into in previous days, but that's not what it is. That's the plastic that's kind of curled around a little bit. We can see. All right. Cool. I think we've loaded a good shell, hopefully. Better use a funnel. Put the wad on the powder immediately so I don't end up spilling it, hopefully. Switch over to ounces and measure out the shot. And I've already got this other load weighed out from earlier. Okay, next step is the felt. And this is where I need to take my time. I think that's a little bit better. Got the overshot cards put in these. They're both looking perfect. Yeah, those seem to be packed nicely. My felt's a little bit more even. Let's crimp them. Put a little bit of Vaseline on this one. I forgot that last one. I'm not sure if it was the lube or a little bit more heat in the tool whenever I got to these, but these last two came out really nice. I would say that's about the bare minimum amount of plastic we need to get a crimp made. But I think it was enough. Looks like I got a stray flake of powder in there. Can't imagine that would be a big deal. So pretty happy with those. Let's do the same thing with the other roll crimps. Let's get these easy ones out of the way first. So it was 2 pieces of felt for each one of these, right? So all of these look good. I want to take a minute and measure each of these because we can use this and a little bit of math to figure out what we're going to do for the crimp rounds. So I think earlier I'd written down it was 0.370 was the number I'd written down earlier. And this first one here, that one's in the 360s, right around 370. And that one's about 360. We'll keep that in mind. First, we need to crimp these 3. I was just putting lube on these and realized I almost forgot my overshot cards. First one looks good. I did it again. Got a flake of powder up on the wad. No big deal. Happy with these 3 crimps. They all came out good. I'm really glad I have these clear holes. It's nice to be able to inspect that. Especially like this is a good example where it's a little bit crooked, right? This side's a little bit higher. But if I look where the shot card is, it's sitting perfectly level. So slightly crooked crimp still looks like a good crimp. So roll crimping was awfully easy. So let's move on to the tougher ones. So here's my thought. We know the 3-inch roll crimp setup ended up leaving us 370 thousandths of room here. We need 500 thousandths, according to the Lee manual for the Lee Load-All, which is what we're going to use to make these fold crimps. So that seems like the most sensible place to reference. So we need the wad to be 130 thousandths shorter. So if I dial up 130 thousandths, I am going to try and trim off that much of that wad. We're not going to be able to use two felts anymore. We'll probably have to switch to a felt and a cork, or a felt and one of those. We'll get to that here in a minute. Step one, I need to find the sharpest pair of scissors I got. So I ended up finding a halfway decent way to mark these and cut them with scissors. So this is not too bad. We'll see if it works first. I'll show you my technique on the next one. So we're kind of back to square one now, okay? Now we've got a whole new length of wad to investigate. Let me see if I can find some spacers. Okay, I think that's perfect. Now I need 1.5 ounces of shot. So if I trimmed off 135 thousandths, so that's 1/8 of an inch plus 10 more thousandths, which I think means a felt plus a cork, 1/4 plus 1/8. Yeah, I think that's going to be just about right. You know, it needs some squeezing, but that's what we want, right? We want this all to be tight. Okay, let's dump out the shot and get rid of those. 36.0 grains of Blue Dot. Make sure we get the right wad. Yep, just slightly shorter. See if I can keep the powder off the side of the wad this time. Let's measure that wad depth now. 0.482. Remember, a 1/2 inch was our goal, so that's awfully close. Got a 479, 490, looking good. So which one should I put at the bottom? I think I'm going to go with the felt, just because it should conform to that cup down there at the bottom a little bit better. I had 3D printed this little tool just because I saw it on Thingiverse and it was labeled for shotgun reloading. I've seen people use a ratchet handle, or they sell wad seeders. I'm assuming that's what they call them, that you can use for this. I think I'm going to 3D print some more of these, just scale it up a little bit, scale it down a little bit. Having a whole collection of different sizes doesn't seem like a bad idea. Let's pour the shot back in. That shot height looks just about perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Now this is like with the fold crimp. If I had them, I would put a 16 gauge overshot card in here instead of this 12 gauge. Yeah, because as I'm pushing this down, I'm able to get the overshot card all the way down to the wad, but it is pushing back up a little bit, so it's under a little bit of compression. Just wouldn't mind a little bit more maybe. But I mean, that's nice and tight. That should make a nice platform to crimp onto, I would think. So all right, let's do that. So this is the first time I've ever tried to make a fold crimp in a brand new hole like this. So I would be lying if I said I was confident. So this station here, we can either go here in the front for an 8-point crimp or in the back for a 6. So from what I've read and heard, the 6 fold is going to be easier. So let's start with that one. It says depress the handle to a full stop. Some shells may require a 2-second pause to set the plastic. Although I assume that might be different here because this is a 3-inch shell. So let's just see how it goes. Seems to feel pretty smooth. Let's come back up and see what's happened. Oh yeah, look at that. Let's give it a little bit more juice. Something just felt weird. Looks like it made it down to our overshot card, or pretty close to it. Let's give it one more squeeze and then we'll move over. Just going to hold it here for a couple seconds. Now let's move it over and finish it. Yeah, this is definitely not going to bottom out. Got a long ways to go. I'm just going to hold it here for a second. Make sure it has time to do its thing. And let's see what it looks like. Huh, okay. Tell you what, the clear plastic makes it kind of hard to see. Yeah, I think that stupid overshot card is just in the way. Let's give it a little bit more. I think I got it to give a little bit more. I guess the danger here is creating a bulge if I push down too hard. Well, I certainly got it flatter. Try and find the right light. Got a little bit of swirling in the middle, so it might have gone just a little bit too far, or the case could have been a little bit shorter. Okay, that needs work, but I'm happy with it for the time being. I think it's a good crimp. It's maybe just not the prettiest crimp. So I'm making these little dimples to use as a cutting guide. I just use the jaws of my calipers. You know, this is locked down at the amount I want to cut, so these little guys up here on top, it's not that hard to line it up and then just kind of tilt it in to leave a little dot. You can just line up the scissors and trim it right off. I need to get a better set of scissors, but it's working pretty well. Doesn't take all that long. So one felt in each one. Tamp each of these down a little bit. And then the 1/8 inch cork in each one. Okay, there's the overshot cards put into place. And we're done. So we need 2 more with the 6-point crimp. So let's go ahead and do those first. So that's the station in the back. Just applied steady pressure downward until it felt like it wanted to stop. We'll let it sit here for 10 or 15 seconds. See what that looks like. Yeah, that's good. I think that's good. Let's go ahead and finish it. Try to apply the same principle, just steady pressure, and then hold it for a few. The center of the shell looks better. Looks like it all, came together. Our lengths were right. I think it's good. We'll give it one more squeeze here. And move on to the next one. Yeah, I hadn't finished that enough. That second press there got it looking much better. Sweet. Okay, this should be the last 6-point crimp. This has been surprisingly easy. I expected this to be really tough. Or I expected the results to be worse than they are. Put quite a bit of pressure on that time. Yeah, and we got we got good results the first time here. A little bit swirly in the middle. Next, let's move to the 8-point crimp. This could be a disaster. I'm not sure. I think it'll be okay. So same deal. Steady pressure until it wants to stop. Oh, it bulged it. Did you see it? I'll have to look back at the video and see if I've been doing that all along. Yeah, that was too much pressure. I think everything's fine, but it definitely started to buckle or bulge. Let's just see what happens. It's like I buckled it in some more, and the crimp is pretty swirly. Let's try it again. A little bit less aggressive on the starter here, maybe. Just slow and easy pressure. Right there, it wanted to stop. Nothing weird's going on down here. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, that looks real good. That one actually looks really nice. Looks really nice. Okay, last one. So slow, easy, firm pressure. Until about right there. You can feel, I mean, it just gets to a point where it doesn't want to move anymore. So 10 seconds or so there. And then a little bit more firm with the pressure here. Like, I think this last one, you just got to get used to how much force it's going to take. Let's see if that one's good. Yeah, that one looks awesome as well. So just that first one's the only one I screwed up. I can live with that. I really like these clear holes, but it's kind of hard to see some of these crimp details. It's hard to tell what's on the surface and what's below. So I think these little spots in the overshot card, like where it has a little bit of a step, get around, see, yeah, there's another one. There's another one. So that was where the crimp starter came down a little farther than I should have, perhaps. Yeah, a 16 gauge card in here that could live inside of the wad and float up and down independently with the shot column is the answer here, I think. Or just trim it a little bit more and then don't use an overshot card. I'm honestly not sure why a lot of these fold recipes, which, you know, this isn't directly from a recipe, but I'm inspired by a bunch of recipes, and most of them have an overshot card under the crimp. So I haven't seen a good explanation as to why that is. So these are the three with the 12-point crimp. Trying to get a good view of some of this bulging I caused. Just too much downward pressure, I think. Kind of spin them around a little bit here, get the other side. It's not bad. They're going to be just fine. There it is. Yeah, that right there, that's the worst spot. Some of it might also have to do with the janky alignment of that Lee Lodahl press. I'm not sure. I mean, you know, these others that I didn't do so hard didn't do it, so I should probably keep the blame with me instead of bringing Lee into the conversation. Yeah, these are good. Seem to come together nicely. Maybe a little hole there in the middle. I think both of the other two had a little bit of a swirl. No, that one swirled on us, which that's the same one where I used too much pressure. So too much pressure caused buckling plus a swirly crimp. Those little spots in the overshot card probably more pronounced as well. Yep, they are. I mean, I think it's still a good shell. But we'll be keeping an eye on everything as we shoot them and making sure if any of them do weird stuff, we'll know which one it was. Here are the 6-point crimps. That one, not quite perfect, but this one's pretty close. Looks like same deal with the crimp starter coming down and kind of pinching the overshot a little bit. Is that other one? Yeah, that's the first one we did. A little bit swirly, but not bad at all. I'm pretty good with this for a first effort. While I've got the camera set like this, I might as well get a closer look at the roll crimps from earlier. I think these things just look good. They just look really good. Again, it's hard to see with the clear plastic a little bit, but that seems like a small price to pay. I really like the clear stuff. You can see your little mistakes, and they look pretty neat if you ask me. So I think this is where we'll end this one, folks. The next video is going to be on the range shooting these and then analyzing the results a little bit. If you've got any predictions about how this identical load loaded 4 different ways, how the numbers are going to compare, feel free to give it a guess. Other than reading that the roll crimps usually have a little bit lower velocity, I expect them to all be really close. I'm particularly interested in the 3-inch versus 2 3/4 with the roll crimp, just out of curiosity. It seems like they should be the same. So I don't think I'm going to put up a video tomorrow. So that's Christmas for me and Monday for you. That'll make my day a little bit easier, but more importantly, it'll give another day for the weather to get better. The temperature has started coming up. So by Monday, Tuesday, we should be good to go. Because, trying to deal with the chronograph and the camera batteries and all that crap out in the cold is a bit of a nightmare. So warmer weather's worth the wait. That kills our streak though. We made it 8 days in a row. I'm not too upset about that. This was never really like a challenge sort of thing. It was just more like I've got a whole lot to learn and a video every day. Most of them have just been talking a little bit about what I've been reading or what I've been thinking. It's been really helpful for me, and all of the feedback and information, whether I agreed with it or followed it or whatever, I still appreciate it. More stuff to think about. But now it'll be fun to switch gears and get into the range testing mode. So after this 1-day break, I want to start up daily videos again, just to try and get some ground covered. Because, we still haven't messed with 410 at all. I figured, especially with the roll crimper and stuff, 12 gauge would be the easier one to learn on. I don't know, we'll see if that's true or not, but I thought it would be. All right, I've started rambling aimlessly. That means this one's over. Thanks for joining me. See you the day after tomorrow.